Hey guys, Sep here from Blackbook Properties, condoblackbook.com. Today I'm thinking about real estate headlines and how they plain stink and they're just not true. Don't believe a word they say. And I'm going to explain what you should do or what you could do to get the information you need to make really good informed decisions. So let's start with this Fortune article that reads, "Keep an eye on these overvalued housing markets as the housing boom implodes." Guys, implodes. Let's talk about the definition of implosion for a second, because I really want to drive home how these headlines are super misleading. Okay? Definition of implosion is something collapsing violently inward. Guys, a violently inward collapse. Picture that. That's Armageddon. That's a black hole. There's nothing about what's going on that makes our markets black holes. It's just not true. It's totally premature to say this, and markets vary by location. There's no speculation going on, which would be required for a housing bubble. Yeah, maybe some housing is overvalued in some places. We're going to talk about that. But data shows that pricing will probably not fall. In fact, many markets still have room to grow first before they level out and maybe correct a little bit. Who knows? For example, Florida's market may be overvalued, but data shows that it likely won't experience a fallout. Let's talk about the Miami market real briefly here, and a lot of sort of primary markets. What part of the fact that highly paid people who can now work remotely are moving to cities like Miami, while others are moving for good weather, and even others are moving to stop having to pay state and municipal income taxes? What part of all that would tell you we're going to have an implosion just because interest rates crept up a few percent? What part of us having very little inventory means very little properties to sell to a lot of very interested buyers? How does that give food for thought for an impending implosion, a violent collapse inward? It just doesn't. Now let's read a little part of what the article does say when you actually take a second to read into it and not focus on the clickbait headline. Moody's Analytics chief economist Mark Zandi tells Fortune it's premature to use the term housing bubble. A bubble in his mind would require both speculation-driven price growth and overvaluation. That said, we do meet at least one element of the bubble technically, which is overvaluation. Why? Because prices have outpaced income growth. But what the data doesn't actually take into account is how people have been moving and migrating across the US. Imagine someone from San Francisco making buku dollars in San Francisco money decides to work from home now and live in Miami. Guess what? He's not factored quite yet in the income stats of Miami. So sure, it looks like Miami prices are way overvalued based on income growth, but the reality is that there's a whole new income paradigm going on. And so maybe, just maybe, it's not overvalued if you look at it that way. Now, the other part of a housing bubble is speculation, right? There's no speculation going on. All the people who are buying here, or vast majority, are primary homers, second homers, but those aren't speculators, those are long-term holders. So what part of all of that mix leads anyone to believe that all of a sudden the market's just going to collapse? It just doesn't make sense. The headline is false. Fake news, as they say, right? These days, kind of annoying, but they say it a lot. Fake news, and basically read the guts of the article. Don't just focus on the one article though. Read a few articles, get into the guts of them, read the nuances, and then come to your own conclusion. Surprisingly, the next questionable headline is from Fortune again, or maybe not surprisingly. Here it reads, "The housing market just slid into a full-blown correction," says top economist Mark Zandi. Now, this one, little softer headline, not too bad. But let's just talk about what's in the guts. So basically, the guts of it, you can see about 5 paragraphs down in the article, talking about how prices may come down in some cities and regions, some regional markets, not the whole housing market. It's really important to understand that housing is regional and local. So you have to get to know what's going on in your city, what are the factors in your city, and make decisions based on that. Zandi says a housing correction means the end of the housing boom and the beginning of a period where home prices fall in some regional markets. Over the coming 12 months, he expects year-over-year home price growth to be 0%. Now, what does that mean? That means that in some cities, prices will increase. In some cities, prices will stay the same, and in some cities, prices will go down. In some cities, prices will continue to go up. Otherwise, there wouldn't be an average of 0%. So it's important to note every market, you have to look at it separately and distinctly and ask yourself, what are the factors going on in this market, and will my market go up a little bit this year, maybe stay flat, maybe go down, and make that decision not based off of a headline regarding national goings on, but rather digging deeper and seeing what's going on locally. This, according to Zandy, will be the worst technically 12-month stretch since 2012 nationally, but again, we're talking nationally. To be clear, Zandy doesn't see a 2008 style housing bust or foreclosure crisis. While the spike in mortgage rates has pushed the housing market into the upper bounds of affordability, again, not if you look at it the way I talked about before with high-paid people moving to the great cities with great lifestyle and low taxes. But anyway, we don't have the credit issues that plagued us the last time. Homeowners are financially better off than they were in the lead up to the 2008 financial crisis. Lenders have been much tougher with giving loans and giving loans to people who can afford it. And this time says we also don't have the widespread subprime mortgages, which is essentially giving bad loans to people who can't afford it, right? So if nationwide prices do begin to plummet, again, big word, plummet, if they do begin to adjust or fall, he says the Fed could always ease up on mortgage rates. Have we slid into a full-blown correction, sliding down into a correction? Some places maybe, but look into the guts, make your own decision, read a few articles, and come to your own conclusion. If you want to know what's going to happen next, real estate has leading indicators like days on market, months of supply, price reductions, showing statistics, etc., where you can start seeing things get shaky. And even that's not a guaranteed predictor, but it certainly is better than just reading headlines. Be smart, read the full article before making conclusions, don't panic, and ask for relevant info to your local market. And we are here to help you do that anytime here in the South Florida market. Thanks for listening and have a great day.